joint Cummins-Peterbilt SuperTruck, developed under a grant from the U.S. Department of Energy, is both a feat of engineering and an aerodynamic work of art. The aerodynamic engineers and styling experts at Peterbilt literally gave this truck the bumper-to-bumper treatment, with both large and dramatic improvements and some very subtle adjustments to existing components. I'm Jim Park for today's Trucking's Ultimate Test Drive. Let's take a walk around for trucks so we can see up close what a bit of imagination and a lot of ingenuity can do for a truck. And who better to lead us on that tour than the fellow in charge of much of the outer body fairing design and fabrication, Bruce Bezner. Bruce is a project engineer in the Vehicle Performance and Engineering Analysis Group at Peterbilt's Denton, Texas facility. He also holds a commercial driver's license and was the test engineer and driver for all of the on-road testing and development of this truck. Let's get started with the tractor.
We've opened the grill up to help airflow through the radiator. Then we have a splitter chin to split the air between the airflow through the radiator and then down under the truck. And then we put a lower air dam underneath the bumper, so it really gets a real close, tight clearance to the roadway. And we come around to the side of the truck. We've closed in the gap between the bumper and the hood just to seal the air from going between those gaps. And then also we've closed in the gaps on the wheel wells to prevent the air to getting in the wheel well and prevents the air from getting up underneath the truck. So what we're trying to do is keep the air, the high-speed air on the outside of the truck and the lower speed air that's under the truck, kind of keep them separated. So as we come back, further back on the truck, we've reduced the size of our mirrors. The overall height has been reduced 4 inches just to help with the air drag, to minimize the drag coefficient of the mirrors. We put this rubber skirt in between underneath the cab and sleeper down to the fairing to really tighten up the gaps. We brought this lower skirt at the bottom under our fairings, closer to the ground, just to help with the airflow underneath the truck, just to keep it out from under the truck. We've added a extended fairing that comes all the way back to the bogie, just to keep a clean line to help the air transition further back on the truck. And then one thing you'll notice, we've got just almost zero gap between the truck and trailer. And this is all what we kind of call a ball and socket, where the trailer is kind of the ball and the truck is the socket, where the front nose of the truck will actually, kind of roll inside the socket of the truck. Close in our fenders. We actually made like a volume, like an hourglass shape. It has a bottom and inside to it. So the air underneath the truck is kind of in the channel. So it channels air, from the bumper all the way back to the back of the trailer. Just to keep it airflow, just try to keep it as smooth as possible.
In addition to what Bruce just showed us, check out the detail on these bits of trimmer on the rain gutters on the sleeper door and the sleeper vents. The rear deck on the tractor is sealed up as well to keep air from coming up off the road, and even the gap at the roof line is closed as much as it can possibly be, with a bridge extender on the roof fairing and a nose fairing on the top of the trailer. Like I said, Peterbilt didn't miss many opportunities to make this truck as slippery as possible. Stepping back to the trailer now, Peterbilt added some very bold aero sculpting here as well. All the trailer aero design came from Peterbilt except the Aerodynamics trailer tail on the back.
And on the skirts, we've actually got we call it a pontoon. It has a volume, it has a width to it, and it's typically the width of the duals or the drivers of the truck, so that the air transitions from the drive tires on the tractor all the way back through the trailer tires on the trailer. And then, there again, we really reduced the clearance between those, and we just left enough room for swing clearance, for maneuverability, and for actually allow for articulation going through dips and things. And underneath the truck, we've closed in everything we can. We put in some, anywhere there's a blunt, flat face, we try to put a slanted approach to it, just to help the airflow get past, whatever obstacle it might be. We added like an airfoil on the bumper, just to help the air get over the bumper, just to make it, take away the turbulence as much as you can.
And here's where the ingenuity comes in. Check out how Bruce and his team took fleet concerns into account while still getting maximum aerodynamic efficiency out of this trailer.
Okay, and inside here, we have access to our landing gear handle. So you want to, lower your landing gear to unhook the trailer. Then also we have a lever here, and what that does, that stows and deploys our lower pontoon. It'll tuck up underneath the trailer, for stowing, for like when you're docking and the maneuverability, just so your ground clearance doesn't become an issue. And then one of the things we learned through this program, with US Express, they had a concern with having access to the bogies and just serviceability, inspection, checking the air pressure on the tires. So with that closed panel, that really helps the airflow. So we incorporated a design to actually hinge this up and put some air shocks on it so that, it's virtually, weightless, and it's kind of a broken over center kind of design so that the air shocks actually hold the door vertical, so the operator doesn't have to have any type of latch or anything. And then if you need to track the axle to the rear of the trailer, you can access the release button. If you look underneath here, on the end of our mud flap brackets, we have some rollers on there, and then those rollers will actually run on a guide on this back panel, which it hinges out. So as the bogie translates to the rear, this panel swings out, and I can kind of show you how that panel will swing out. It'll, as the bogie comes back, this will swing out, and that allows for the tires and wheels to come all the way back into the rear position, for docking and for unloading your trailer. And then those panels have a spring, or they just return back into the road position, without any type of mechanism. It's just spring loaded, and once the roller or the bogie is translated back forward, it just allows us to collapse back into the position they need to be for the road.
The final piece is the Aerodynamics trailer tail. It helps reduce the negative pressure zone at the rear of the trailer that actually creates suction and pulls on the back of the trailer. As Bruce points out, the idea is to get the whole truck moving through the air with a minimum amount of disruption to the airflow around it. So you're probably thinking, well, it had better be aerodynamic because you're going to need a lot of extra fuel to drag all that extra weight around. Wrong-o. Sure, the aero fittings added weight, but engineers also took away a lot of weight, so much so that the truck you see here is about 1,300 pounds lighter than a standard off-the-shelf Model 579 pulling a standard 53-foot dry van. So, with all this extra trim, much of which will soon be making its way into Peterbilt's truck assembly lines, how much of a fuel economy improvement are we really talking about? Here again, SuperTruck designer Bruce Bezner.
Okay, with this, our aero package on this truck and trailer, we've treated it kind of as a system. And the overall drag reduction that we realized on this truck with our CFD simulation has come out to be around a 50% improvement in drag reduction. And typically, the industry standard or acceptance of drag reduction kind of equals about a 2-to-1 ratio. So from 50% drag reduction from the aero, that kind of equates to about a 25% fuel economy improvement, from the aerodynamics alone. So with this, with this program, we was able to demonstrate, quite a bit of significant improvement by adding these features, to a truck and trailer and treating it as a system.
A 25% improvement in fuel efficiency. Wow. During the actual test run of the project, the truck logged 10.7 average miles per gallon over the 300-mile test course. The day we had the truck, we saw 11.1 miles per gallon on the instantaneous fuel mileage display. That's the truck's actual fuel consumption at a moment in time and doesn't reflect idling, stops and starts, or anything else that brings the average down over time. But miles per gallon is only one part of the story. The engineers at Peterbilt and Cummins delivered a 76% improvement in freight efficiency over a drive cycle and an 86% improvement in freight efficiency over a 24-hour duty cycle, not to mention a 22% improvement in thermal efficiency of the engine. The first video in this series gives an overview of the truck and the SuperTruck project. The second and third videos explain what those gains mean in the real world and how those gains were accomplished. Be sure to check those out as well. From somewhere in the Texas Outback, I'm Jim Park for today's Trucking's Ultimate Test Drive. Drive safe and keep your revs down.